Good evening, everybody. Welcome back, Librarian. Everything is remembered. Hush House endures. Game loaded successfully. We are on to the 23rd episode of our first run on YouTube through House of Light. I'm System Chalk, and I need to figure out, as usual, where we were. If I recall correctly, I think we were going to be sending out some invitations for Salon. That's what I've got on my to-do list. I'm going to also take a quick second here. Now, I noticed that I've got desires and dissolutions sitting around here, which makes me wonder... Okay, so that's at level 2. So this does raise a bit of a question for me. Do I want to try and bring desires and dissolutions to a higher level, or do I want to... do I want to try and bring something to the Tree of Wisdoms? And I think one of the deciding factors on that, assuming that I didn't have an insight in the previous stream that I'm not going to remember, or that I do wind up remembering, I think one of the determinations for that might be whether or not I can commit it to a branch in the Tree of Wisdoms reasonably quickly. What I mean by that is the more I commit to the tree here, the more I'm going to be able to get out of the Salon. And that's going to be reasonably important, but I don't know, like I also don't think I have that much, I don't think I actually have that much freedom in terms of some of the things that I can move around. But anyways, we will work with what we've got right now. There's nothing that I can do to commit this, or there's nothing that I can do to level this up tonight. The night's fallen. We'll just wait for the 19 seconds. And then clearly for today, if I'm going to be sending out the invitations, I've got 2 Catwink. We've got the invitation to Serena. So I'm going to need to write... so what have we got? We've got 3 invitations total, but we've got 5 spots. So I think the majority of today is actually going to be spent making ink and sending out the invitations. And so probably what I'll do is I'll figure out what I want to do with this Desires and Dissolutions lesson, and then we'll move accordingly. All right, so let's unpause and see where we go with all of this. Now, I'm also conscious of the fact that we have lots of elements of this. Hang on, let me just take a second here and make sure. Yes, we are resting on a memory. I suspect there was probably a specific reason for using the cheerful ditty. Do I remember it? No. But yeah, I am conscious of the fact that we have a bunch of books to catalog here as well. So I think probably the main focus of today, again, invitations for sure. Level up what I can with a mind to having more options in the Tree of Wisdoms. And then where we can get the Salon ready to go, although we should have everything in place. It's really just a matter of sending out the appropriate invitations. Now, because I want to invite Fraser Strathcoyne, it would be nice if I could somehow create Peribiot. I think that's going to be with weaving and not working. Okay. So one of the things that I'm a little conscious of, if I recall correctly, I had a couple of surprises in terms of what it would take to get certain invitations in. So again, what are we going to try and do here? We're going to try and invite Serena, Fraser, Mademoiselle Bichet, Arthur Moore, and Corso Reverti. So in the case of somebody like Olympie Bichet, that's a pretty straightforward one in my opinion. I don't even remember where I put my notebook. I guess I usually keep it in the room. Yeah, here we go. So if we add metal here, and we can actually it doesn't have to be metal, but I'll just say for the sake of argument, this is as simple as, oh, right. So it does actually have to be a desk with forge. So we could use Ambrose's desk in this case, bells and braziers, and then we add the Am I... Oh, she wants a moth. Okay. Once more with feeling. Trist, And at this point, it's really whatever I want. But transformations and liberations. Oh, and then we would need the ink. So, fair enough. We're good for Olympie Bichet. However, when it comes to Arthur Moore and Douglas Moore, these require Lantern. And if I take a look at what Lantern's available to me, none of my skills on their own provide sufficient Lantern. Furthermore, I don't have Whist and I don't have Faust. So unless I have an ink that provides Lantern, I have to get that through something like a memory or something similar. The other thing that I keep neglecting is that Catwink does actually have scales, so perhaps, before I go too far down this path, let's see what kind of scale I can bring to bear. So Hill and Hollow gives us 2. Alright, that's as good as I'm going to get. So for Fraser, it's actually not as bad as I thought. If we take my health, what I can do there is I can add the Catwink. Well, nice to know I can make Bisclaves not. And at this point, we don't need to worry about generating a memory. So it would seem to me that probably the best approach here, in the absence of an ink that will allow me... in the absence of an ink that will let me generate Lantern, I should focus on making... Actually, sorry, I'm just realizing I think I have more potential guests than spots. I've got Douglas, Olympie, Arthur Moore, Fraser, Serena, and Corso. And it looks like here, so I wrote down Fraser, Arthur, Corso, Serena. Okay, I actually need to take a minute here and make sure that I've got the right guest list here, because for some reason I didn't write the final guest, and this slightly annoys me. So Fraser, we've got Pickled Pilchards. That's no problem here. Arthur Moore, we've got the Orange Jumble. Corso Reverti, we went for Cold Pheasant and Grape Salad. And then Serena Blackwood, we went for Marinated Roast Beef. So we have the Magnificent Roast Potatoes. These grant, and that's also with a Roscragan whiskey. So it would seem to me that the clear answer would be Olympie. All right, so a little silly for me to get lost on that, but there you go. Okay. So Olympie we can get through using our skills and our elements of the soul. Fraser we can do without any additional interventions. Arthur Moore we require a memory for. And Corso is the last one that we haven't really worked out yet. Now, Desires and Dissolutions I think is sufficient. So Corso... No, hang on. Corso needs Lantern. Okay, so it is both Corso and Arthur who need the Lantern. So that'll be 2 characters that we need some kind of lantern for. It can be any source of lantern. We can even get something like sight by taking a look at a painting. But I do need to make sure that I generate those memories one way or another. So let's make... I think the first thing that I want to do is make sure that I'm actually generating the inks that I require. So if I can go... I'll have to use actually, hang on. If I remember correctly, I actually needed to... Yeah, I needed a memory. Okay, so this is Olympie's invitation. We can generate 2 ink out of the 4 that we need. Okay. So these are to generate the 2 memories that I need. I'm sorry to spend so much time working it out this way, but honestly, I want to keep on top of the tools that I'm going to need for the course of the day. The other thing that's nice is that I can bring in a helper. I don't know if I want to do core Arab. Well, actually, I guess he'll take anything, so I could actually use Arab to bring him in. That does lose me the Desires and Dissolutions, which has a Grail element. So maybe we want to work out... Okay, yeah. So slightly disappointed in myself for not thinking about this before. But let's take a look at the Tree of Wisdoms. Okay, so under... I have kind of a section called Wildcards. And this would be basically elements of the soul, or skills that I can place for elements of the soul without a whole lot of attention in terms of where things need to go. So for instance, something like Horamakastry, 2 through 7, it's kind of whatever I want. So something like Inks of Containment can go in there, Sacralamea, so on and so forth. The catch on this one is that for Horamakastry, I do not yet have the language. So the first thing that I want to do is say, okay, so it's going to be Birdsong, Preservation, Bosk, Skolakosophy, Nyctodromy, and Hushery. Those are the ones that are currently open. Now, of these, not every single one of them is going to have some open areas. So for instance, Nyctodromy, I actually only intend to start at 4. Hushery, I intend to start at 5. So the ones that I actually have some room for would be Skolakosophy, Bosk, and Preservation. So with that in mind, under Bosk, I do have Desires and Dissolutions listed. I do also have Furs and Feathers listed, but it's not 2. So let's take a second here. Maybe the better way for me to approach this is to take a look at all of the various skills that I have that theoretically I could level up to commit. So Desires and Dissolutions is 1. I think Drums and Dances was due for Horamakastry. So I'm going to leave that aside. Weaving and Not Working, I believe that was going to go into Preservation. So I can commit that. Pearl and Tide. I can't remember the other one for that. That's Nyctodromy. So I feel like that one probably winds up somewhere else. And Spices and Savors also goes in Bosk. So, okay. So it seems to me like I've got a couple of Bosk candidates here. So one of the things that I look at for this would be to say, okay, if it comes down to it, I can apply... I can put Spices and Savors in position 2, then I can put Desires and Dissolutions in slot 3, and then for Preservation we can put Weaving and Not Working in the relevant slot. So this to me is an argument that we put Desires and Dissolutions in its place. The alternative would be something with Grail or Moon. So if Pentiments and Precursors, Leaves and Thorns, Snow Stories, Oronoscopy, Inks of Containment, or Cycler Eclipse, or Wolf Stories, if any of those are in a position to go to Skolakosophy, and it's maybe worth mentioning that Ragged Crossroads is actually something on the Skolakosophy path. So right now that doesn't have a position... I have a position 2, but not a position 3. So if I can do something to get something committed to Skolakosophy, and my candidate would be something like Lockworks and Clockworks. I think that's it. So I made some notes to that effect as well. Obviously, because I've got the Ragged Crossroads, but I don't think I have enough to go inside. Okay, so I can see a situation where I would level up Desires and Dissolutions. That tells me that I want to keep the Arab set aside. So on the basis of all that, here's how I'm going to handle today. So we're going to use, it doesn't really matter what element of the soul I use, but actually I'll use the Arab in this case here just because I can bring it back at the Sweet Bones pretty easily. So I'm always welcome at Denzil Smithy. Denzil will offer help for free as a friend. If you give him occult coinage, he will perform the service of division. Now, the real challenge that I run into for this little this day's set of tasks is that in a perfect world, I get the inks done right away, right? So we've got 4 inks that we need to use. I currently have 2 in my, like on my my list of like in terms of the inks made. Now, with this Tryst, I'll have what I need to be able to build them up, but I also still need to generate, you know, the memories and so on and so forth. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll let this run until the halfway point of the day, and if we don't have something with Moon from Denzil, or if we don't have anything else that I can work with, I'm going to start using these to restore elements of the soul, or sorry, to generate memories. The other thing I want to keep an eye on is I have an option to get resurgences and emergences. This would probably be good for 2 levels worth. We don't yet have resurgences and emergences, and that would be something that I can commit to preservation. So technically weaving and not working already takes that slot. Glimmerings gives me sights and sensations, which we do have. Sights and sensations would go to Nyctodromy or Hushery, so those don't start until 5 for me. Beekeeper's Ends, I think, is quite a difficult one for us, and Etery After, similar story with the winter. Again, it's not that we can't do them. What I'm trying to do, though, is see what can I do to get myself prepared for the Salon. So I think for today's work, the first thing we're going to do is just talk with Denzil a bunch. I know he'll love that. And what I'd like to do is just get a nice foundation to level up Desires and Dissolutions with, as well as generate the various inks. If I don't accomplish any of that, then we take matters into our own hands and we use these elements of the soul accordingly. But the thing that would be nice is if I can turn that around and use my metal health, you know, so things like that. If I could use them to catalog a few more of these books, then I get more done with the day. So let's see what the weather brings. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So I don't really think there's anything with the cheerful ditty that I can do. And snow, so that's good for sky and winter. Now, this is the sort of thing where I'll pay attention when it comes to these various books. Etery After becomes a bit more tempting in this situation. So if we've got 8 and 3, so that brings us up to 6. And I always do keep forgetting, so we do have also a winter from the Bronze Knife. So let me just take a second here. So if I go something like this. So we're 7 of 8. This really does feel like the sort of thing where I should give it a shot. All right, I'm potentially setting myself up for disappointment here, but we'll throw the health in. Perhaps you've provided winter, but not enough to match mystery winter. And actually, I'll do the same trick that I normally do. So I'm going to use my core in this case. So we'll read a book with some kind of winter aspect. No regrets. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Denzil rarely works for free, but he won't take payment for helping a friend. speak to Denzil. He might even reply. So we're going to go and level up, and restore our elements of the soul. This will be a big expense day, but again, there's a specific plan behind this. There is actually a small dilemma that I have, so the more I think about this... So Etery after, my current idea... you know what? I should have got something other than regret. I should have gone for a hindsight, because that gives me 2. He does a lot with silence, this man. Okay, now this is good. This actually helps me generate the lantern invitation. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this foresight. We'll add the pyroglyphics. And I'll take one of the ink and use them right now. And this is just because it'd be nice to get the lantern invitations out of the way. There's nothing for this foresight. There's nothing I want to do with this foresight today other than generate invitations. So here we'll request Corso's presence. I have enough here to craft a letter to inviting Corso to Brandkrug. Nope. Still want to generate memories from Denzil. And like I said, we wait until the halfway point of the day to get the specifics we need. But we're already up the 1 memory from Denzil, so we're in pretty good shape. I'm quite impatient to get these going, but... Alright, the 5 letters on memory, Julian Cosley's epistolatory treatise on matters memorial and mnemonic, addressed to his then-friend, Claude Hersault, the mystic and antiquarian. The book is partly a practical manual, expounding memory palace-like techniques, and partly an exploration of memory rarefied, modes in which sense or experience persist outside a mortal mind. This is an early work, and by Cosley's standards it brims with optimism, even enthusiasm. If books, he suggests, are the memory that does not die, then perhaps, with sufficient endeavors, memory's murderer might be contained. Oh, this does have 2 winter. Okay, so much the better. So I think we go ahead. So yeah, I'll show kind of what the dilemma is with this one. So I can take the snow, we'll use Ragged Crossroads, it's the best winter that I have, and then we'll add a knife. So here's basically the dilemma that I face. The usual reason for adding a memory instead of the weather is that if I get an event that requires... So let me put it to you this way. If it was a question of, we're at 7 here instead of the 8, we know that there is an event that can come up, or an inspiration, or whatever they're called, that is for weather. So on the chance that that happens, I'm opening myself up to the possibility that I will get another improvement, another opportunity to commit an extra card. Because this will work as both a memory and as weather. The catch is, though, that with 2 here, if I get something that says, add a painting or a thing, I don't necessarily have ones that'll be worth 2. So in this case here, I'm actually going to add the snow. My chances are diminished doing this, but just because we're not at a point where this enables another event to sort of trigger, I've got my memory. And in this case, I know that if it asks for a thing or if it asks for a painting, I should be able to work with that. But if it asks for an element of the soul, we knew we were never getting that anyway. So there may be a regret, but I'm doing the best with the opportunities that I have. Okay, and in 2 seconds we will get an element of the soul. We'll restore the core. Better now. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire and the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. Okay, fear. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. So this is something that theoretically I could use to help bring in Fraser Strathcoin, but I don't want to use up the ink for that yet. Still in morning, the third hour, when the office of terse once was sung. Watch as the day opens like a door. I'm still conscious of the fact that I want to level up Desires and Dissolutions, but I do at least have the old wound in the background to make that work. Okay, so another foresight. We know what we want to do in this case. I have used up the desk for it though, so I will use Ambrose Westcott's desk. So this will be an opportunity to invite Arthur Moore. Request Arthur Moore's presence. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Arthur Moore to Brandkrug. And we're going to get to a point where I want to try and generate a confounding parable soon. Now I just need to post it. So 3 of the 5 invitations already. There's still a chance. So it wants 2 soul and a stuff also thing. So we made the right call with the snow. Of course, it's going to... everything's still sort of still up in the air. I actually need to make sure that I put something in this slot. Better now. Okay, so I don't have an element of the soul to restore. I'm going to go fixing and mending just so I can have something to do for the day. And I'm going to take the Shapt and read the Locksmith's Dream because we know that's something that Denzil won't eat up. So I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And I have a couple of break glass opportunities if it comes down to it, but again, I want to be somewhat careful with the day, just see what I can get away with. Okay, hindsight. Does this help me right now? I don't think it does because we're already on our path for Etery After. And it is worth saying, right, so I'm putting a lot of effort on trying to get all these invitations written today. If it comes down to it, I don't need to do the salon tomorrow, right? This is something that's driven entirely by me. But what I think is going to happen today is there's going to be sort of a mad scramble at the end of the day just to try and use up all the elements of the soul. But that's fine because we sort of have a bit of a game plan in place. Okay. So in 10 seconds, we will work with this. Now, it's kind of funny. These, the stuff also things doesn't apply to paintings anymore. Okay, another foresight. I'm really looking for moth memories at this point. I, of course, have the occult scrap, but I'd rather not use Hokebald's card. I know Ava has winter, but I don't think we found... Oh, no, there she is. Fiddle with something here. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of the day here. So, afternoon, the little hour called Nons, when the doors of the mansis are most tightly closed. For the secular, the hours when we may anticipate tea or celebrate it. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Okay, so we'll use the money that we just earned to restore some elements of the soul. The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Galmier records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there is a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. Okay, so there's the confounding parable. So from here we want to make good time with the... So these are resources that are a little bit more constrained. So, oh dear. Wrong one. We need a desk with moon. So the reading room desk. Okay, so we add the confounding parable. In this case, I don't think it really matters which one. We've got the inks of containment. Brew a minor ink with a virtue against vermin. Okay, so it's also not a bad idea for me to keep on top of what guests already have been invited and which ones still need invitation. So we've got Corso, we've got Arthur. It's just Olympia and Fraser that are required. So I actually think it's probably better to write the Fraser invitation first, and then, because we may get lucky with a memory for Olympia. She needs moth. We're also at a point where I'm going to start needing to commit some of these to... he does a lot with silence, this man. I am going to need to start committing some of these to... I'm going to need to commit them to the... like to the memories to level up desires and dissolutions if I want to do that today. That was why I preserved Arab. All right, kind of appropriate that we chose this bust for the book. Ettery After, an anonymous erotic novel occasionally claimed to have been written by Ava DeWolf, although at least 2 duels were fought in her honor to avenge this slander. The novel graphically details Madame Ettery's various imprisonments, ravishments, and escapes in the debauched Commonwealth of Tinctures and its neighbor, the Pious Atrament. It becomes apparent that many of Ettery's lovers and pursuers, Catwink, Houndsgall, Niliki, are transparent allegories for inks, and that Ettery is an embodiment of knowledge pinned to paper, to her mingled delight and dismay. The author only half commits to the metaphor, though, and is clearly at least as interested in titillation as revelation. So 2 inks of containment, and a hindsight. So this actually creates a slight complication here. Because I do want to level up Inks of Containment, and I can use Hindsight for that. But that is going to tie up one of my Tryst because we, you know, we're using this for, we've been using this to to create the ink. And of course, I've also been using the Inks of Containment to make the inks. So it's definitely going to complicate things, although I think in the long run we should be fine. But again, I definitely have a balancing act in front of me. And I think the safe thing to say is that I might wind up pushing the Salon just because I have an opportunity now to commit more things to the Tree of Wisdoms. So if I commit, I believe I said I was going to put Inks of Containment. I should maybe just take a look at this stuff off of the recording time, but Inks of Containment I think was going to go into Horror... Oh, that's right, it was going to go into Horror Macastry, so it was, that one doesn't apply because I don't have, the language. I think it was Deep Mandaic yet. Okay. Perfect, all right. Intuition, you just know, you know? So this is very good for us because it means that one of my elements of the soul is now freed up. Instead of generating the extra two moon to create the ink, I can just throw that in. So let's just take a quick recap in terms of the materials I have available for me. We've got a Tryst, which will be combined with the Intuition and the Lunar Globe to make the Catwink, which I'll invite either Olympia Bichet or Fraser Strathcoin with. I'll probably do Fraser Strathcoin just because we have the scale if I need it. So in this case here, we shouldn't be using any elements of the soul. So we may be inviting Olympia Bichet with the Tryst here. But what I want to do with the rest of my elements of the soul would be the metal, the core, and the Arab. Either the core or the Arab can be used to level up desires and dissolutions. But I can basically either catalog books or I can level up the different the different skills. The ideal, of course, would be that I get some kind of moth memory from Denzil, and then I won't need to use the Tryst. But we'll see where it goes. Again, I'm not going to pin everything on getting lucky with the draws. But at the very least, we know we have what we need in terms of the day's upgrades. Although, this is really the point where I need to make some decisions in terms of what I'm going to do for the day. So, this Tryst is 100% committed no matter what. Okay, I'm going to do something that will make me grit my teeth. So we're going to take Desires and Dissolutions. I'm going to take this lesson, the Intuition, and I think I can only use the Old Wound here. Yep. So I'm going to use the Arab. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Improve the skill to level 3. So the reason I'm doing this is kind of a bird in the hand situation. So what am I trying to do? Well, I'm trying to create an ink. Actually, I think I just made life hard for myself doing this, actually, but I'm committed now. Yeah, so the big challenge here if I try to generate the memory for the ink now, I'm still in a situation where I need a minute to actually make that ink. So I don't entirely regret the choice, but there were some implications behind what I did that I probably should have thought through. Okay. But I will make another Old Wound. I'm going to use the... So we're rebuilding the turn, so I'm going to use the Tryst with the Hindsight memory to level up Inks of Containment when the time comes. And that leaves me sort of a free metal and core. It doesn't take a whole lot to... Yeah, it doesn't actually take a whole lot to catalog books, so I'm going to sit on these. I'm also kind of conscious of the time, so I think what I'm going to do is for the rest of the day, I'm going to do that in the next episode. I know I sort of conscious of the 30-minute mark, and then I kind of got to thinking, so it was an extended episode today. I am actually getting ready to do some travel, so I need to be... I have a pretty distinct time in which I need to stop recording. So I'm going to leave it here. As usual, Tuesday is a day off in terms of the uploads, so I will see you all on Wednesday to continue the day's doings, and then probably we'll have one more day to prepare for the salon, which I feel a little weird about, but hey, I'll work with it. All right, thank you very much for watching. See you on Wednesday.